Okay, hi YouTube, Mr. User Boss here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the PlayStation Vita 3000. So this has not been announced yet. This is just something which I really do think will happen, and I 100% hope it does. I mean, I'm really enjoying the PlayStation Vita Slim, but there's a lot of things which could be much better about it. So to start with, I want a bigger display. I realize that the resolution can't be changed, and it might actually look a little bit pixelated when you actually sort of stretch out a 5-inch display at that kind of resolution, but I still actually think that it would help with the immersiveness. If you look at the jump from the 3DS to the 3DS XL, although the actual resolution has not increased, the experience has definitely improved just by expanding the screen. So that's a really important thing. Now also about the display, I think they should change the LCD display to an IPS display. I mean, the LCD is pretty much the one main complaint of people moving to the Vita Slim, and I couldn't really agree more. I mean, it's really poor that Sony decided to actually downgrade the screen, albeit it's not actually a massive difference, but nonetheless the screen should be getting better as models increase. So an IPS display would be very power efficient. It would save battery, as well as actually being bright, vibrant, and actually very nice looking. So yeah, I think IPS is the way to go. So, as well as actually that, I think the screen should be allowed to go brighter, for obvious reasons. I mean, use in outdoor conditions is pretty much pointless on the PlayStation Vita and the Vita Slim. It just doesn't work, because you can't see a thing. On top of that, it should actually be allowed to go dimmer. So for example, when you're playing at night and there's no other lights on, I'd say even the lowest brightness setting is a little bit brighter than I'd like, and something like the LG G3's brightness levels, it actually goes much lower, about 20 to 30% lower, and that's a very nice feature. Also, the controls I'm not a massive fan of. I mean, they're not bad, they're probably a little bit better than those on the first model, but they're very noisy. Again, if you're trying to be in a lone condition, if you're trying to be quiet, they actually do make a significant amount of noise. On top of that, they've got just a little bit too much resistance. I'd say after about an hour or so's playtime, you literally can't feel your hands. I find it very painful, and that could just be me, but I have heard lots of other people also complaining about the same thing. And when it comes to the joysticks, the exact opposite is the case. They've got too little resistance, and as such they don't really feel like the joysticks on a console-grade controller. And I think, the whole point of the PlayStation Vita is to try and replicate that experience on the go, and you can't do this with joysticks that just feel a little bit too flimsy. So to be honest, I wouldn't mind if they protruded a bit more. I mean, I never really keep it in a pocket anyway, it's always in a case, so this would really not affect the portability. And on top of that, it should have a little bit more resistance and, not glide quite so smoothly, because that's what makes these a little bit less easy to control and less accurate than traditional console ones. So I think out of every single device I've owned, the PlayStation Vita is the greatest fingerprint magnet of them all. I mean, you use it for 20 minutes and you can barely even see the face of it. It's really bad. I mean, this has gotten worse the more I've used it, and I literally clean it fully and then 20 minutes later it's just grimy again, and I really do not like it. I mean, when you create a product that's as premium as the PlayStation Vita, as high class as this, which is, it's really aimed to a luxury audience, then I think you should make sure that it retains that look. Just like a all-round matte finish would be great, something like the PSP Street, if you've seen that one. That's got a great finish. It actually is grippy, it feels comfortable, and it's not going to get fingerprints all over it. And that, even after a weeks of usage, it's going to look pretty much exactly the same as it did when you bought it, and that's what we want. So another real talking point of the PlayStation Vita is the memory cards. Now, to be honest, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I realise that they're very expensive, but it was the same for the PlayStation Portable, at least at the beginning. And so I think that what they should actually do in the next Vita is build in 16GB. So I mean, I don't mind if they keep the memory prices the same, but you can build in more than a gigabyte. I mean, even the PSP Go, a device released five or so years ago, that actually had 16 gigs of inbuilt storage. So without that, it's almost as if we're moving backwards. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, I wish you'd just improve the graphics a bit. Even if you put in a Cortex A15 instead of the Cortex A9 currently in there, that would give a 50% performance increase, and that would be enough to actually truly port the console games over. But there's a slight misconception here, is if Sony actually changes any of the actual physical hardware inside the PlayStation Vita, then the actual device will not be able to play PlayStation Vita games. It would be a totally new console in itself. And I don't know, I'm not so sure that's going to be the case. I don't think Sony would actually create a new portable ecosystem given how badly the PlayStation Vita has done. However, in a situation like this, I do genuinely think that a model refresh would help. I mean, if it's a good refresh, then pretty much all of these sort of dedicated Vita owners and people who regularly play their machines would probably upgrade to it if it's a large improvement. On top of that, it's good to attract larger audiences, and anything new is good. I mean, it's great for marketing, and it's just going to keep the Vita audience satisfied, because at the minute, I have to say, I don't think they are. So now, something a little bit more interesting. I mean, the back touch panel, I don't think you need all of it. For example, what I think that Sony should actually do is just put 2 little strips on either side so your fingers can move over and reach the back, because that's all you actually need in any game is 2 touch points. So those can replace the L2 and R2 buttons, or of course Sony could physically install some, that would also do the trick. But apart from that, the back touch panel is all but useless and is only adding to costs. Sony could also save by getting rid of the cameras, because no game of any worth is actually using them, and I highly doubt people are going to take around their PlayStation Vitas to go Skyping their family. The camera is poor, and phones do it a hell of a lot better. I mean, if Sony really want to lower the price point, I suppose they could also cut the GPS, they could cut accelerometers, and all the other sort of weird functionalities of the PlayStation Vita, none of which have really been utilised. They could turn it into a pure gaming machine, which I guess is kind of what most people would want. If they manage to recreate this device, launch it at a sort of £120, £130 price point, then I think they've got a killer machine on their hands. Now with the PlayStation Vita Slim, Sony made a big deal about how slim it was, how light it was, and how much better this made it than its predecessor, but honestly I think this is a really crazy thing. Like, when you buy a really high-tech piece of technology, you're not bothered about that. You want something that feels solid, you want something that's got good battery life and all that kind of stuff, and trying to cram all the PlayStation Vita stuff into one tiny little shell is the exact opposite of that. It's going to have much lower battery life than something which is like slightly chunkier, it's going to be built less well, and it's not going to last as long. So in the PlayStation Vita 3000, which I really hope will become a thing, I think Sony should just ditch all the gimmicks, focus on controls, battery life and display. So what do you guys think? I mean, if a PlayStation Vita 3000, similar to what I've described, came to be, would you buy it? Would you even upgrade to it if you've already got the Slim or the original? I'd be kind of interested to hear that, because I think I probably would. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more.